All right. So everybody that's listening, we do hope that you have been enjoying our program, whether it's on the radio, whether it's on the YouTube, whether it's on Rumble or any of the other podcasting platforms. We're very grateful for you listening, joining us today, watching us, whatever it may be. So thanks again for listening. Subscribe, like, share on the podcasting platforms. Excuse me, and we really hope you do because we do want to keep growing the channel and the show in general. We have a special guest. She is going to be telling a story about her son, and I think it's very valid for people listening because many people have went through this troubling event, and she's going to talk about this and just to help people look for the signs in general. She did publish this book in 2021. The book is The Son I Knew Too Late. It is by Sally A. Raymond. She is on the program today. Sally, thanks so much for coming on the program. Greatly appreciate your time today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And I so appreciate the opportunity, Rob. I'm just
Right.
really honored to be here.
I got to tell you, Sally, just to start off for people watching this that may be watching, and obviously, as we stated, you can watch this or listen to the show. But for the people that are watching this, Sally is 81 years old. I'm sorry I had to bring that out, but you look
Okay.
amazing for your age. And when you told me at the beginning of this show that you were 81, I couldn't believe it. I almost dropped to the floor, except I'm sitting, so I held on before I dropped. But whatever you're doing, maybe we should even start off the show with that before we get into the book. What are you doing to look as good as you do at 81 years old?
Well, I think it's all because of my mom. My mother would never tell me her age. All she would ever say is, I'm as old as I feel. And that was all I heard all my life until around 15 or 16. I don't know. I was probably hormonal. And she said it again, and I just hit the ceiling. And I went, Mom, you know, I really don't know how old you are, so I don't know what I'm going to put on your grave when you die. And that's a terrible thing to say. But she just looked at me very sweetly and went, that's your problem. So she basically told me it's irrelevant. And that really went deep. That really went deep with me. And ever since, I really believe that aging is a choice. And that you can, if you pay attention to your age, if you pay attention to your looks, if you obsess about all these things, which is exactly what most of the fashion industry want you to do, to give them money, it's going to make you age because what you're doing is creating a neural loop in your brain, which is a program saying age, age, and your body will cooperate. So don't go there. Stay in the present moment. Trust the process. What else? I was thinking, yeah, surround yourself with youth energy, stay passionate, stay creative, and keep beginner's mind, which means stay open. Don't judge, learn, observe, pay attention. And also, and like I said, never think about your age.
Right. Now, there's questions going throughout my mind after what you said to even follow up, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to take too much time away from our interview about your book. So maybe we'll do a separate interview and go more in depth on aging process. Because listen, I think you could really help some people. There's a lot of people that get extremely stressed out. We went through this before the show began about, obviously there's the people that eat the crappy food, drink the crappy drinks. They're not eating vegetables. They're playing video games all day or watching uh, crappy TV on social media all day long. So we all know that. But there are other things, obviously, that you've done throughout your life to make sure that, you're keeping up with the Joneses, if we want to say and use that old term. But it's kind of keeping up probably with your mom more so than the
Yeah,
Joneses
really.
because because she was kind of the leader of the pack as far as this goes. But we want to dive into that in a different interview. But let's get a little deeper into the book because, again, that's what we're here for. So, talk about The Son I Knew Too Late and how the book starts out. Obviously, it is about your 23-year-old son, John, that did have that did commit suicide. Excuse me for that. So we can go into that. But how did the book start? Because this is such a traumatic subject for you to write about. Not to mention, it is your son that passed away.
Yes. My son, the minute he was born, the most amazing thought came through my mind.
Hmm.
And it was not my thought. It was something I would never have thought. It was almost like an announcement. And the thought was, here's the one who will teach you all you need to know. And I thought we were supposed to teach our babies life, about life and how to live and everything else. And this thought was just the reverse of what I had always thought. It was saying he was going to be my teacher. And I remember being very stunned at that thought as I watched him being lifted out of me for the very first time. And here was this shimmering little baby, perfect baby boy. And I was so excited and so happy to be a first-time mom. And anyway, this little one never did anything wrong, but he did too well.
Hmm.
He flew. At 2 years old, he was reading.
Wow.
At 7, he was giving me 45-minute debates on why he didn't need to make his bed. And he
Jeez.
was winning. And I knew it was only going to get worse.
Right.
And I remember one time I was driving and I had him in the back seat and he was about 7 or so. And I was having some interesting conversations with the people in front of me because they were going way too slow and being fairly stupid. And I was using 4-letter words.
Hmm.
And behind me, I heard my son go, "Mom, what kind of example do you think you're giving your children?" Oh my God, and it
Yeah.
was like, and I just realized I had to somehow stay the mom of this little upstart, this little
Right.
kid that was so wise already. And I had to go back to school. And then I couldn't get a B because I got one and he crucified me for it. And because he'd never gotten a B. And so that forced, I was never going to let him do that to me again. So I ended up getting highest honors at the university, which
Wow.
would never have happened without him being exactly who he was. And at 14, he was at the university in calculus with 250 regular aged STEM students. And he got the top grade in each of 3 quarters and was inventing new proofs. And at 15, he was teaching calculus. At 16, he was invited into Carnegie Mellon in theoretical math. And in 4 years, he had both his bachelor's and master's awarded simultaneously
Wow.
in
So,
theoretical math. And a year and a half later, he killed himself. And
yeah.
that was the greatest shock of my life because none of my stories about him could have possibly ended like that. I was just becoming licensed as a psychotherapist when this happened. And
Yeah.
he forced his death, his suicide forced me on a walkabout to find out what I'd missed. What were the stories that he would have said led to into suicide? What fit with that ending? And I had to find out what his experiences were that fit with that piece. And because I now had the skills I'd never had as a mom, I had tools and insights to use to look and seek and find. And over the years, I found the stories that took a superstar to suicide. And I also just realized that none of them died with him. They're all happening right now to young people today, doing the same thing they did to John to them. And I couldn't be a psychotherapist or my son's mother without using his stories to help as a cautionary tale to show people what to do instead throughout life to keep life worth living. And that was my job.
Yeah.
And it took 28 years to write because I also, every story that I found would just throw me for a complete loop because I didn't know it before. And it would take many months before I could deal with it or write about it or do anything. And that would happen over and over and over and over again. And so, but at the same time, what I'm doing in the book is taking Erik Erikson's 8 Ages of Man, which shows you what is the key issue at each age that we need to lead to at each age. If you don't know what to lead to, you aren't going to help build that child from the inside out, and they can hollow out instead and fall. And so I take the stories and I use Erik Erikson's model to show what happened to my son at each stage so other people can know how to, all the readers can know how to avoid what happened and to keep life worth living all through life, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for talking about that. We can dive a little bit deeper into that. Obviously, we don't want to give away the whole book because we do want people to read it. And obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about it today, but you should read the whole book so you can get the whole story in general, not just a brief summary of it. So let's talk a little bit about this because when you talk about John, I mean, he really kicked some butt throughout his life. I mean, reading it too, and as you stated, getting that bachelor's and master's degree, I think you said it was 16 or 17 years old, that fast, I mean,
Yeah.
is extremely incredible.
Yeah.
What were you seeing, just to kind of drift back? What were you seeing that, like, he found, like, and I'm trying to get this in better terminology here. So I guess I'll frame it this way. Did you, you saw that at a young age, but did any kind of person, whether it was a doctor or anybody, say how this kid that's so young is just breezing through school like the snap of his fingers?
Nobody said a word. All the
What
teachers just loved him, and he had great friendships, and he did go through some dips, but I always thought they were normal. I
what do you
thought
mean by dips? Just to
that,
interject.
yeah, he'd have he'd go into kind of depressive moments, but they never seemed to me to be, so severe as to warrant help. They seemed more normal wave things for
You
me at the
talk
time.
about kind of depressive small dips.
Yeah.
Is this like somebody bullying him at school, maybe a girl,
Mhm. Yep.
like
He
liking
was,
a girl and stuff like that? Is that what we're
yeah.
talking about or
Yeah,
what?
he was bullied terribly. And that would really hit him hard, of course. And, because he
Okay.
was doing so well that he was really raising the curve on a lot of the classes. And the other kids had, they couldn't match it. So they'd attack him outside of class. And he was like a perfect nerd. He had a very nerdy look to him, and the kids just crucified him for that. And so, yeah, he was bullied and he went through different things, but I felt like they were normal reactions to what was going on.
And this was mostly in high school or grammar school, continuing into high school. What?
Was usually it was started really in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. But then it went on to Carnegie Mellon too. And
Really?
oh gosh, they were merciless. They were merciless because he really was getting the top grade. And there's a lot of competition at that level in a school like that, which is was one of the top 10 at the time. And the
Hmm.
kids, those kids just They pilloried him.
So was that, and again, we don't want to give away the whole story, but is that kind of the downfalls, is the bullying? Because again, we hear these stories all the time where there is a suicide, but then when the parent or the school look back, they missed all these signs of this guy or this girl getting just bullied into submission basically for years upon years on end, and they just try to suck it in, keep it in, and they can't do it anymore. And they just
Right.
end it.
Well, that's one thing I really want to help change, because schools are those are the nests where we're creating their future society. And if we aren't keeping our children safe and respected among one another, we are really actually supporting the elitist, sociopathic kinds of kids that are entitled to hurt and demean and disrespect and
Mhm.
destroy young people. And people are, they're young, they're fragile. And with John, he had some early issues that I didn't realize were really affecting him. That's why we need to deal with, the internal growth issues throughout life. If I had really known about that, then I would have been able to flag and deal with it a lot more effectively. And I didn't, because all I saw was him rising straight up. And so
Mhm.
I thought, he's doing basically all right. It's all going to work out. But I didn't realize the bullying at the end, especially in the Carnegie Mellon, I think, absolutely hit these very vulnerable areas that were always a part of his life from early on. And
Mhm.
they just decimated him. But that wasn't the reason he committed suicide. But it did, it set up, helped to set up the suicide.
Okay. Did you want to go a little bit more deeper into this? I know this is a tough topic.
I can,
Uh,
but I mean, that's what I wrote a whole book about.
right.
And
I
I,
know we don't
I
want to give away the whole
no,
book
no,
or
that's not
this
the point.
either, but
What I mean here is not that
yeah.
I want to give away the book, but I have worked and worked and worked on this over,
Right.
I don't know how many edits, a million edits, I don't know. But
Wow.
I'm more than happy to, because I want to save other people from losing their own lives or their loved ones' lives. I mean, that's all I care about.
What is the issue, just to kind of go dive back into this, whether we want to dive back into the high school realm or into the Carnegie Mellon, where he was getting bullied? I'm sure people obviously saw this outright in person. Do you feel like, is this partially the school's fault, whether we're talking about Carnegie Mellon or the high school? Because there is a lot of bullying that goes on in these schools, again, high school, college. And it seems to me like a lot of the schools really kind of take it with a grain of salt.
Yes, they do. They look the other way an enormous amount, and that just reinforces the kids into
Right.
doing worse and worse and worse things to one another. So that's one piece of it. But the other piece is the toxic competition. And I believe that's from uh, focusing on the normal curve in grading. I really believe that we also need to balance the normal curve with, raw scores, so that, whoever, everyone could, in classes that are graded by raw scores, everybody can, potentially get an A.
Mhm.
But in a curve, they're competing against each other, and two or three people will get the A, X amount of people get the B. It's just it's weighted. And so that creates a lot of in-class competition that I don't find as, you know, as legitimate or necessary. I think there's some, good competition is fine, but when you start to set people up like that, then, you're going to get a couple of edges and everybody else is going to fall underneath, and there'll be a lot of losers.
Yeah.
and they're going to be alienated. They're going to be angry, and they're going to start taking it out on the edges to basically neutralize the field.
Yeah. Let's go
Right?
into the parents aspect on this. So, just speaking on the parents, how should they deal with a son or a daughter that's extremely excelling in school? Maybe, if we want to use the word the nerd of the school that's consistently getting A's. I saw this when I was in grammar school, high school, not so much in college, but but mostly in high school and grammar school, with a person that was the so-called nerd that was getting the A's consistently were the people that didn't have a lot of friends, were extremely picked on as far as that goes. They were asked to do other people's homework. These were the things that I saw. And if they didn't do that stuff, they were consistently bullied.
Yeah.
How should a parent deal with, again, son or daughter that's like this?
But I really, if I could have known what I know now,
Hmm.
I would have told my son, that look, you're excelling, you're going really fast, really hard, and you're really young to be, going at this, going so fast. And you're going to be hitting a lot of walls. And I would have required him to go into personal therapy to just help him deal with what the issues are, not with me, because I'm the wrong person
Right.
at that age. They have to find their own people to talk to, but they need a professional. They need someone to guide them. They need some help to be able to negotiate things and work them through so that they always end up in a healthy, they equip them instead of erode them, if that makes any sense.
Do you think it's more important as far as in therapy for if it's a guy to be with the guy and a girl to be with the girl, or do you think that it doesn't really matter?
I think it's up to the person what's most comfortable to them. I would say, what feels right to you, what
Right.
works for you, and of course, every person, every therapist is a different algorithm themselves, and so it's really a personal decision that needs to be made given the other, whatever dynamics they're dealing with. Yeah.
Again, for people listening, the website is sallyaraymond.com. Again, sallyaraymond.com. The book is The Son I Knew Too Late, a guide to help you survive and thrive. As we move towards the end, Sally, and I do want to have you on again, as I stated earlier on in the broadcast, to talk about this and other issues as far as, I was going to say looks, but that's not the right word. How to live a healthier lifestyle, I think would be the better terminology to use. So we'll go with that. But regardless of that, anything you want to leave the audience with as we end our first segment together?
Oh, absolutely, I do. I really want to tell everybody that whatever happens to us, and I apply this to myself as well, what happens to us is just what happens. What we do about it is what makes it either a tragedy or a triumph. What we do about it is in our power. We can take any negative, and if you work hard at it, you will find the gold within. There's a gift within it. And even my son's suicide, I knew couldn't be a tragedy because he was too successful.
Yeah.
And I realized that he was a teacher, and that teacher taught me as long as he lived. And because he lived, he's forced me to become something I would never have become otherwise. And now I'm on a mission to help other people, survive and move beyond difficulties and shocks and traumas and whatever, because they're not to take us out. They're actually to equip us. But if you don't know that, you'll look at the short perspective and you won't see the long perspective where the great, great, great gift lies. And it's really important that people look beyond just the moment to what they want out of this. What's going to serve them? Because there's something that is a gift here. What is it? And then work on that, because that will save your life and it will grow you in ways that will only be triumphant and successful and take you to the stars.
SallyARaymond.com. Again, SallyARaymond.com. The book is The Son I Knew Too Late, a guide to help you survive and thrive. Sally, again, I look forward to our next conversation. And thanks so much for doing what you're doing. This is a very important topic for people to learn about, to talk about, to think about, because if you have a kid that's young or even old, you should always be thinking about them and how their mindset is. Because listen, and I'll end with this: we all walk around the streets. I might see you, Sally, say, "Sally, how you doing?" You say, "Good." You walk upon your way. Everybody is not doing good. That's just the standard answer rather that everybody gives.
Mhm.
I tell people that I'm doing good all the time. That does not mean I'm doing good. So
Right.
we have to look beyond the word good
Mhm.
and try to help as many people as we can. And even if we can't help them, put them in our thoughts, prayers, and try to be kind to each other in a world where there's not much kindness being shown to each other. And we see that every day in person around the news too. So, anyways, enough of me rambling. SallyARaymond.com. SallyARaymond.com. The book is The Son I Knew Too Late, a guide to help you survive and thrive. Sally, thanks so much.
You're welcome, Rob. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to talk you through some more.